Let's go back to gallery view. Hello, Brian. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. How you doing?
Well, we're doing great. We have the serving line going right now for the party. If you look at the screen, you're also going to see one of my students. She was sick today, so Maya's attending online. Maya, this is Bryan Lunduke.
Hey, Maya.
Hello.
You know, Brian, I think this is actually the first time you and I have actually spoken. Up until now, it's all been by email and Twitter.
It is. It's good to talk to you, man. Hello. Hi, everybody.
I'm going to pan around the room a little bit. Okay. This is probably the largest assemblage of students in the building right now. COVID kind of kept a lid on a lot of things here, including sports and most of the extracurriculars. The school saw the value in keeping Penguin Core going, so we just had to get creative. But now that we're back full face-to-face, we can kind of get away with stuff like this.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you guys can.
All right. Okay. Excuse me. Show 5. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Okay, it looks like Thomas and Alexander are making their way through the line. The servers, make sure that you guys get something too. And guys, it is Sam. Turn it down, please. Guys, it is with great joy that I introduce to you somebody that I've come to consider a friend over the last few years, even though up until 90 seconds ago, we've never actually spoken face to face. It's always been over Twitter or by email. But Bryan Lunduke, host of the Lunduke Show, and former editor at linuxjournal.com. And he has a channel on Odyssey, has a channel on YouTube, and a few other things that he has going out there in cyberspace. You do a podcast too, is that correct?
I think so.
Okay. Well, at any rate, guys, please allow me to introduce you to Bryan Lunduke. Brian, let me go ahead.
Hey, everybody. How you guys doing?
Video for us last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back when it was just our little 14.
Yeah.
Oh, just little tykes.
Mhm. Now, to give you a little bit of context, guys, can we? 5th graders, thank you. To give you guys a little bit of context, last year, and most of you know some of our story because some of you were here to make it. We started off with just 14 kids in the fall of 2019. And we had gotten as high as like 21, 22, something like that, when COVID hit and shut down the school. Believe it or not, our numbers actually went up a little tiny bit, up to about 23 or 24, when we were shut down and the only way we could meet was over distance learning. Then we came back in the fall. We had to have red team and blue team because we couldn't even have all of you in the building at the same time. And then in February, we started up again with all of you face to face. And we've even had a few of you who were still distance learners come to join us at school during this term, like Imani and Jeffrey and a few others. And at this point, I think it's safe to say that we are currently the largest school-based Linux group in all of Minnesota. I don't know of anybody else that's even close. So let's give yourselves a hand for that.
I'm not actually aware of any other state that's bigger in that regard.
Yeah. Okay, now. Okay, boys. Guys. So Brian, if you could you share with the kids a little bit of what it is that you do. If that's
Well, sure. I do mostly Linux journalism, which means I get to write about what Linux people are doing all over the world, which means basically I get to be nerdy and geek out about what other people are doing that are awesome and cool. And, you know, basically kids like you guys putting Linux on computers and getting people set up and running with it. I got to write an article about you guys. What was that, last year before? I can't even remember, but it was awesome. And then there's other people building cool things. I get to play with it, learn about it, and tell people about why it's neat. And they pay me money to do that. It's incredible.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now, Bryan also agreed to let us ask him a few questions. So if kids have questions, and I realize we didn't prepare that ahead of time, we forgot that bit, but if kids have questions, we'd love to hear it. And Finn, we'll start with you. Okay, back there, stand up, please, so you can see it. Good.
Hey, Finn.
Do you think you'll ever do a Minecraft tutorial on your YouTube channel?
Do I ever think I'll do a so I play Minecraft all the time with my kids. My family has their own personal little Minecraft server. I should absolutely do that.
Yes. Let him talk.
No, but I should totally do that just because it's so much fun. I mean, it's a little bit outside of what I normally do, but it's so much fun. Why not, right?
Okay. Now the next one over here, Cam, stand up. This is Cam Citroel. He's our club president this year. He's also one of our founders from last year. So
nice job, Cam.
So he's one of the guys that helped us get this whole thing started. Please.
How old were you when you first discovered Linux?
I was, oh shoot, how old am I now? I think I didn't discover Linux until 1996. So I was a junior in high school. So I was in 11th grade when I discovered Linux. And back then, Linux sound did not work. Linux Wi-Fi, wireless networking didn't work. I could not get more than 16 colors to display on screen at one time on my Linux machine back in 1996. But you know what?
Yes,
it was
please.
Still awesome.
All right. All right. Okay. Okay. We're going to bring it over here a little bit, starting on this side, and then we'll come back, guys. Don't worry about it. Michael Martin, he's another one of our founders, and he's our current, we refer to him as our media specialist, and he's gotten to speak at a couple of conferences. So Michael.
Nice.
What's your favorite thing about Linux?
What's my favorite thing about Linux? Can I have two answers? Is two answers okay? Okay, the first one is the easy answer is I like the freedom. It's open source and all that sort of thing. That's all wonderful. But really, what really got me into Linux, got me loving it, was the fact that I could tweak it a lot and make it look like whatever I wanted. That still is today. And now that I'm 175 million years old, that's still like my favorite thing about Linux. That I can make it look all cool, or make it look all old school, or make it look all weird, or make it look like it comes from like a James Bond movie. I love that so much.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Mike Latkinson, our vice president this year. Michael.
Hey, Michael.
Peak time using Linux.
What was that?
What was your peak time using Linux? Or
Your peak time using Linux? Are you talking about a period of his life where he did it more than others, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been using Linux as my primary machine for the last 16 years. So really the last 16 years. I've never really stopped. It just keeps on going. And my guess is now that Linux is everywhere, I don't see that stopping in next year anyway.
Very cool. Mr. Fritzy, this is Ryan Fritzy. He's one of the guys I work with here at school, and he's been my co-leader for the last few months. Yeah.
Privileged to meet you. Question for you. Have you met Linus? And then if you have or have not, what's one question you want to ask him?
So yes, I have met Linus many times. He is a very, very nice, very, very weird guy, and I like him very much. In fact, he lives just down the road from where my oldest daughter used to go to school. So we've met quite a bit, and I can't think of any questions that I want to ask him that I haven't, but there's about 1 million questions I've asked him that he's never answered me. And every time I've asked him questions, he has basically looked at me and said, no comment. But some of the funnest questions about Linus are when you get him talking about other weird things. I don't know if people know this, but he's a big into scuba diving, and he loves scuba diving. And he has like 1 million scuba tanks for oxygen and wetsuits and all this other stuff. And he's so into it that he wrote multiple pieces of software to organize and track his scuba diving. So at his house, he's got a whole room about scuba diving.
Okay, now so far, everybody we've heard from has been in the boys category, and it's time to shake that up. And so we're gonna start off with Kat. Now, Kat, she's a sixth grader this year, but she was on our team last year. And so
Nice.
she was one of our trailblazers that showed the school that Linux could be a cool thing for girls to do. So she's one of our trailblazers.
Absolutely.
Okay, your question.
What's one of your favorite open source games?
My favorite open source games. Okay, can I cheat? Can I have a cheating answer? I like game emulators a lot. So like I like to play like Super Nintendo and old Nintendo and Atari games. So I like to play those sorts of games using the Linux emulators on top of Linux. I know there's a lot of really cool open source games, but I like the emulators. I don't know why. I like that sort of thing.
Okay, now, little while, Shivangi, your hand was raised, and then the girls around you, we're gonna hear your questions too. Now, Shivangi, she was one of our speakers at our conference in April. Kat
Nice.
did hers in May. Okay,
So my question is, have you ever been to like a conference like Jupyter or something for Linux?
So yes, in fact, it's really weird because I haven't been to a Linux conference in over a year because of all the virus stuff. But normally I go to probably 6 or 7 conferences every year. And that's a big part of what I get to do is I get to go to Linux conferences with lots and lots of nerds like me, and I get to talk to them. And it is so much fun. And going to conferences for Linux nerds is cool to learn about new things, and it's cool to see new things. But the coolest thing in the world for me is getting to sit down for lunch in a room full of hundreds and hundreds of Linux nerds and just eating sandwiches or hamburgers and talking about Linux nonstop. And everyone that's there is super into it and excited about it. It warms your heart. It makes you feel like you're part of something bigger, and it is so much fun. And I can't wait to finally be able to do that again. It's been way too long.
yeah, I can kind of relate to that. I feel most of the conferences that I go to in my work are education ones. So it's like I might be going to like an educational technology one, and it goes beyond, the only one in the room that's not running Windows or Mac. It's the only one in the building. And but the one time where I got to flip the script was I think it was 2016, it was 2015 or 2016 when I got to go to North Carolina and speak at All Things Open. And that was the only one I'd ever been to where everywhere I went, everybody had Linux on their laptop. That was a surreal experience to me because in education, it just doesn't work that way. Okay, we're gonna go
what's
with
really neat.
Oh, sorry, go
What's
ahead.
really neat. One time I got to go to Pasadena, California, which is in Los Angeles, for a show. And I got to do this big show up on stage, and there was about 1,000 or 1,200 people in the audience. And I got to stand up there and be like, so who likes Linux? Everyone just erupts. Everyone's like, yeah, and freaking out. It's the coolest thing to see 1,000 people freak out because you said the word Linux. It's so much fun.
Okay, Julia. Now, Julia, she is a sixth grader. She was new to our team this year, but spoke at our conference that we attended in March. It was March
Nice.
30th. Yeah. So, Julia, your question.
Have you ever created a game for Linux? That's what
I have actually. So before I became Linux journalist and talking person, I was a software developer and I worked for video game companies. But all the games I made for Linux were for the most part kind of weird games. Like I worked for this company that made games that were like movie trivia games and things like that. So I did make a couple of games for Linux, but nothing like super big and famous. But it was still a lot of fun.
Okay, Audrey.
Have you ever done dumpster diving?
Yes, in fact. So I'm not sure how legal dumpster diving is. So I don't know how much I'm supposed to recommend it, but I used to live next door to down the road from Microsoft. And Microsoft back in like the 1990s and early 2000s used to throw all of their computers away when they were done using them. And I thought that was a travesty because they'd have these big tower computers that they would just throw in the garbage. They were perfectly good. Sometimes like the hard drive would need to be changed or something. And that's where I got a lot of my computers back then because free computers, they were just being thrown in the garbage. And you get those, you put Linux Mint or Debian or something on them and life is wonderful.
Yeah. Well, and guys, okay. I remember this one thing that there was a teacher in the Oakland district named Robert Litt, and he had actually done some writing in a video once where he was talking about using Linux to try to start a computer lab at his school because his school wouldn't give him a budget to do it. And he said, the number one wasted educational resource we have in America is used computers. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay.
It's sad.
Okay, Nithya, you're next. Okay. Okay, Des, please. Okay. Your question, Nithya? Guys, we can't hear Nithya. Okay, what is your favorite distro? Yeah.
My favorite Linux distro, I like Debian. I like Debian a lot. I like Debian because what's great is almost all the big Linux distros, most of them anyway, are based on Debian in some way. Ubuntu or Linux Mint or all the other ones. So as long as I get comfortable with Debian, I can kind of jump around and try all sorts of different ones out and it works all great. That's my favorite.
Okay, Debian. All right, cool. Wow, we're gonna hop back over here. Mohammed. Okay, and okay, so Mohammed, your question.
So I have two questions.
Guys, please.
How did Linux work out for you?
How did it work out for me? It worked out awesome. I got jobs because of Linux. I get to play because of Linux. I got cheaper operating systems because of Linux. My computer looks like I'm a hacker in a super movie because of Linux. I'd say it's a success. I win. I win because of Linux. I'm pretty happy.
Second one, do you play Minecraft Bedrock? Can I join you?
So I have a little Minecraft server that I've been building with my kids and my wife for 6 years. And what was that?
Is it Minecraft Bedrock?
It is, it's Bedrock. Yeah, I'm using Bedrock edition.
I would like to friend you. I am
Guys, let's not pry too much into his personal life. Okay, have a seat, Mohammed. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Mohammed.
Max Heitzman. Now, this Max is kind of an interesting story. He's boys. Max is actually the very first student I ever met at this school because almost 2 years ago when we were doing the summer camp orientation thing for middle school students, your mom was the organizer because she's our communications director, and Max was just entering middle school at the time. So he's literally the very first kid I ever met here. So Max, what's your question?
What is your favorite Linux app?
My favorite, like my favorite piece of Linux software? I like Cute Retro Term. You guys ever heard of that one?
Oh yeah, I have.
That so Cute Retro Term. It's just a little Linux terminal. That's all it is. But it makes it look like you've got a really old, like 1980s computer monitor with like screen flickers and like weird little glowing effects. And it just makes it look so cool. Makes it look like I have an old computer that's like 40 years old, which I know is a ridiculous thing, but it's super fun. And just the fact that I have it is neat. That's my favorite.
That's very cool. Okay, now we're over on this side back. Jason.
Yes. What specs do you have on your computer right now?
What specs do I have on my computer?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have two computers that I use here. I have two computers that I use, and this is kind of ridiculous. So the one computer that I only really use for like video production, it's an i9. I've got 64 gigs of RAM in it. It's a nice beefy rig, nice Titan NVIDIA GPU and all that. But you know what? I don't use that one most of the time. The one I use most of the time is a really old, much older Core 2 Duo with like 4 gigs of RAM and whatnot, a small laptop, because with Linux, everything runs nice and fast. So I've got this old machine, and that's the old machine that has like 3,000-year-old specs, but it runs great. So that's where I do all my writing and everything else. It's awesome.
I was gonna scream when you said Titan.
Okay. That's cool though, because here, you and I have talked about some of this stuff with the work that we do here at the school. And
awesome work you guys do, by the way. Awesome.
And when we came back to school in the fall, and I kind of saw this coming because I was trying to solicit more computer donations over the summer. But we didn't know exactly how many we were going to need because we didn't know what decisions the state was going to make. 2 days before the teachers reported to work, they told us, you guys are not going to go full face-to-face. You're going hybrid. And half your students, guys, please turn it down. Guys, please. Okay, they told us 2 days before we reported to work that we were going to be going full, instead of full face-to-face, we're going hybrid. Half the kids Monday, Tuesday, half the kids Thursday, Friday, deep cleaning of the building on Wednesday, but our classes were going to be synchronous. So kids were in the room and kids were at home taking the same class at the same time. So it's like a little bit like what we're doing right now. And when we're doing that though, all of a sudden, because the classes were live, they were synchronous, that meant that kids couldn't share computers at home anymore. You know, in the spring, when we first started with distance learning, all the teachers were recording their lessons and just posting them to Google Classroom. And so if you had a brother and a sister that were sharing a computer, well, one kid could use it part of the time, the other kid could use it the other, and it worked. It was fine. And we come back in the fall and they said, no, it's not what we're doing. That meant all of a sudden, overnight, every single kid needed a computer. And for a lot of our families, that wasn't reality at that time. You had families that maybe hours are being cut back because of COVID, or they've got, and they don't have a kid, they've got 5 or 6 kids. And now all of a sudden, every one of them needs a computer. So in the spring, we handed out 60 computers. Well, we thought we were doing awesome. Okay. I mean, Cam was there, Michael was there. We thought we were king of the world. We gave out 60 computers.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. The night of our open house in August, we gave out 132. And it
No
still
kidding?
wasn't enough. And it still wasn't enough.
Oh,
So that's when
holy.
that's when we had to start compiling a waiting list. And the last kid that was on our list at the time, I mean, we picked up a few other names along the way after that, but when we finally closed the waiting list, first week of October, and in that time, we had handed out over 300 computers. Now,
Wow.
this is why the Microsoft thing you mentioned kind of rang true to me, because there were a number of companies around here that kind of looked to us and said, hey, these guys will take our old computers and we don't have to worry about it. One in particular, their facilities manager saw that their IT guys were just letting the old laptops pile up. And so he said, you want these? I said, sure. And we ended up getting a lot from him, but we've spent, we did have to buy some used computers from the state. But like we were getting them for like 60, 70 bucks a unit. So they're like dirt cheap.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah.
Yeah. And so to close the school's digital divide this year, and a lot of these kids helped out with that. And the school spent, I believe it was, we're still under $6,000. So we estimate
That's amazing.
we estimate that we saved the school over $90,000 because we used open source software and used donated computers.
Oh,
We're the only school that we know of that did that. Yeah,
I'd say you guys earned that cake.
yeah.
Holy moly.
Ed, you were in the cake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pam, you have something. Okay. Excuse me, guys. Cam?
Mr. Carroll just talking about like buying them from the state for like super cheap. And so like when we first started online learning, my mom just spent like $300 on a like brand new piece of computer. And it was okay for what I did. And then I come back here and we started doing, and we did a trial for a one-to-one program. I had a $60 HP computer that outperformed my at-home computer.
I don't
Not
doubt
a
it.
bad deal.
Sam, you have a question.
Are you using Linux right now?
Okay, guys,
What?
over on this side of the room, please. What was your
Am I
question,
using
Sam?
Linux right now? Like to do the video chat?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So are we. So are we. Okay.
End to end, baby.
What? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Now over on this side, really happy to have this kid on the team because he was a distance learner in my advisory most of the year. We finally got him face to face. So Jeffrey, what's your question?
How much money do you make?
Oh, Jeffrey, come on.
Okay.
Guys,
So I won't tell you exactly that, but I will
Guys,
say
please.
this. Having good skills in Linux means that you earn more than people who don't in the same jobs. So worth it.
did you hear what he said?
Using
Okay.
Linux gets you paid more.
Yes. Yeah, having Linux skills will actually get you more money than other people who are doing the same job that don't know
Same
Linux.
job.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, how? Because here's the deal. Lots of companies are using open source software for a variety of things. Not everybody out there knows how to do it. So the people who do it are in more demand and they can get more money.
Yep.
Jaslyn,
What is the most common thing that you do in your free time?
Most
Okay.
common thing I do in my free time. Oh, I don't really know. Me and my kids, we play video games. I read books, lots and lots of sci-fi and fantasy books. That's probably what I mostly do. We hang out, we read, we play video games. We're a very nerdy family.
okay, all right, okay, Thomas over here was club president last year and still with us today. So Thomas, what's your question?
If you could use any other distro besides Debian, what would you use?
Ooh, any other distro besides Debian? I kind of like PC Linux OS. That's a nice one. I like that one a lot. And if I wasn't using that one, Arch, just for the heck of it.
Okay, why not?
Why
Okay.
not?
So maybe we could, next time we do the distro hopping lesson, we can work that one into the mix. We actually created a worksheet so kids can try out like take a bunch of different flash drives and they can try out a couple of different distros live from the computer and then just sort of track what they thought of it. Yeah. So that's one of our
Nice.
lessons. Yeah. Okay. Okay, maybe we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Is that okay? Okay. Will.
Have you played Never Put and have you played Burger Space?
No, wait. What games were those?
Never Put and Burger Space.
Okay, Burger Space, no. Never Put, yes. Never Put's on.
You're on mute.
You muted.
You just got, yep.
I accidentally hit my screen. Never Put, yes. Never Put's awesome. Never
Okay.
Put's it's a lot like old Monkey Ball, and I love that game.
Okay. All right. One more question. Okay. Yusuf over here. Yusuf.
Have you found out how to play Minecraft for free on Linux?
So for free, I'm not really sure, but I pay for it. I pay for it and use it on Linux.
Well, yeah.
Can you
Oh.
like turn it on Linux? Yeah, my name is.
Yes. Excuse me. I know the big question that keeps coming up whenever we talk about this is always Fortnite. And
Oh, Fortnite. I don't know. I've never played Fortnite. Sorry,
Okay.
guys.
yeah. Okay. Okay, guys. Excuse me. Show 5. Show 5. Okay. All right. Excuse me, girls. All right, so let's go ahead and give a round of applause for Mr. Lunduke for joining us today. Okay. And okay. All right. Okay, now, okay, guys, we have a couple more things on the. We have a couple more things on the agenda. All right, so Bryan, again, it looks like I promised you 10 to 15 minutes and we kept you for over 30. But
You're fine. Thanks,
okay.
guys.
All right, thanks a lot. And Maya, we're gonna go ahead and see you on Tuesday as well, okay? You get well soon. Okay, so guys, can everybody say goodbye to Bryan?
Bye, everybody. Stay nerdy. Bye, guys.
All right.